This week's Incredulous installment will feature commentary from comrades Scott, Joe, and myself. We discuss how the U.S. government manipulates debt to justify austerity and what would happen in the event of a default. A deadly tornado outbreak in the middle of winter. Brazil's own January 6th, except it happened on the 8th when nobody was home. Castillo supporters in Peru getting murdered and still not backing down. Healthcare woes, and the new statue in Boston turning heads for the wrong reasons. You could probably find this week's slams skating a drainage ditch. Please do us a favor, share this content. Do us a favor and join our Epoch.
We've got an update on the long-running unrest and protest in the country of Peru, where 50 people thereabouts have been killed during weeks of protest over the Peruvian president's removal and then arrest last month. The whole thing is
talking about New York Times.
It's like if it was anybody else, I would take it more seriously. But the top comment on the video, it's pinned, and it's like, "Hi, I'm Alex. I'm one of the producers of this opinion video.
What's up?
Blah blah blah.
What's up,
I'd
bro?
love to know what you think, especially if you have small children or live near a hospital that recently closed pediatric department. Leave a comment below." Sorry. The first reply just says, "I feel sad to see this."
Some people got a soul out there. What is this video about? Just let the people know.
Quote, "Why saving kids is a bad business in America," unquote.
Mm-hmm.
New York Times.
New York
opinion.
Times.
But then the comment that wasn't
America's
pinned,
newspaper. Like
the natural top comment was, "The notion of saving kids being a business is an obscene notion itself."
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my argument. Yeah.
That's why precisely why this is so disturbing.
Yeah, folks. It's rough out there. If you're a small
Paper of record.
These are actually fantastic comments. Saving kids doesn't have to be bad business. In fact, saving kids should not be a business at all.
Yeah.
Gee, you don't say.
They're the future of the civilization. There's your investment, right? Like, I don't know. I don't get
what
people.
Future? We don't have a future.
But still. No, I mean, like... No, you say that, and like I think there's a lot of people that live with that attitude, but like this is like because of climate change and bullshit. Like I don't know, I still think we gotta live that like there will be a future. But I've argued this before. None of us have children, so what the fuck? What do we have to say about this?
Excuse me.
Oh, you have cats. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm an asshole.
I have two cats. They're both old men fine. Cats, but it's
all
okay.
of them have children except for me. I guess I'm a sad bastard. So, anyways,
I'm convinced smudge came out of my birth canal. I witnessed it. I felt it.
I want to move on from that statement as quickly as possible. Because like the imagery and implications are just staggering. And yep, no, they're in there. Anyways, yeah. So.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna be right back. I need to get another drink because I just like.
Well, so break time on the Epoch, I guess. It's fine. Yeah, breaking news, folks. Tencent video. If you want to give it up to the motherland of China, they got the new 3-Body Problem show on YouTube for free. First 3 episodes at least. They're like releasing an episode daily. I actually don't hold that video like. Yes, obviously the series is like has very far-reaching political ramifications and implications in its themes, and like obviously it's a critique of like certain things that the Chinese government does. But like a lot of people think that it's like purely anti-communist, and it's like I don't think that's what it is at all. But that's just my interpretation.
I have no idea what any of that is.
No.
Okay.
More fucking importantly here, and this is like just kind of like a general comment with like things like Andor and fucking stuff. Like, fucking who cares about the fucking politics of fucking pop culture? That's all I gotta say, That's all I gotta say. Like, all of it is surface level bullshit regardless. All of it is perfunctory, like, signifiers anyways. Like, the 3-Body Problem is a fucking pop sci-fi series. It is. Like, yeah, it is hard sci-fi, but it is a pop series. It is a pop series. It is not that deep. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's about fucking bug aliens that fucking corrupt physics so that they can invade our planet. Like that's not, I'm just saying.
That's hilarious.
I mean, like, that's literally what it is. How fucking long does it take this? Are you back? How long does it take him to get a drink? Okay, well, there we go.
I've been back. I came back to, like...
Be ranting about...
You said and/or, and I thought you meant, like, and/or, like, and/or. Then I was like, oh, he means... something. It sounds like some Viking thing. I don't know, dude.
And/or, you can take it however you like.
It sounds like some Norse castle thing. That's the extent to which I follow whatever you're talking about.
So the government's going to shut down on Thursday.
Good segue.
Can't wait.
Well, actually, Jesse's probably the most fucked of the three of us, if there is a default. If we breach the debt ceiling, that means that the U.S. government defaults on its debt, and then has to basically take to Sophie's choice of, do we continue to pay
Sophie's choice.
Government assistance for programs like SSDI checks, for example, or do we just stop paying out any benefits for social programs like Social Security, SSDI, Medicare, etc., and just focus on paying down the country's interest on its debts? That is what will happen if they do not raise the debt ceiling.
A thing that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, that's more important. What's that ceiling at?
Currently $31.4 trillion.
Oh, let's get it higher. Oh, let's break the record, folks.
You know those guitars that are like double guitars, you know?
Let's break the record.
What does that drop have to do?
I don't know. It's just I saw double guitars and I was like, fine.
So the debt limit is like a limit on the amount of money.
The debt lemon? Did you just say the debt lemon?
You just for sure said debt lemon.
Not intentional.
Okay.
Congress places a limit on the amount of debt the country can issue, and so the cap is at 31.4 trillion, and they're going to hit the limit on Thursday because the government needs to keep paying its bills. And the Treasury Secretary said last week that the U.S. would have to start using extraordinary measures by basically just trying to triage different government departments with what money they have left. And they'd probably be out of money by June, so anybody on the social safety net would be just screwed almost immediately.
Cool.
So,
Can't wait.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, it's not good at all. So, what do they do to make that not happen?
Congress votes to raise the debt ceiling.
Yeah, raise it.
The reason that the debt ceiling even exists is actually for a more practical reason than people usually think, because people are like, oh, it's just a stupid thing. Actually, it's been around since the beginning of the last century, so that the Treasury Department wouldn't have to ask Congress for permission anytime it has to issue new debt or pay bills. I don't know how this country functioned without a debt ceiling, frankly.
So who is the debt owed to then? Ourselves? I don't understand. I'm actually genuinely confused here.
Yes.
Sorry.
So the government borrowing is to pay down stuff like the social safety net programs like Social Security, interest on the national debt, and to pay the salaries for the troops and the military, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but where are we taking that money from?
We issue bonds. U.S. Treasury
You get the point that I'm making, that
yes,
this isn't actual debt. This is a thing that's made up.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I don't know. That's really absurd. Anyways, so I was just trying to make a point about if we're borrowing from ourselves, then what is this concept of debt? I don't understand. Anyways, it's fine.
You have to keep in mind most of. You're correct in that it's absurd and it's not real, but that's most of the entire financial system.
But at this, how do you, if we're borrowing money from ourselves, then how do you not?
China owns a lot of treasury bonds, U.S. Treasury debt, for example.
Okay, so what does that mean? We're owned by China automatically? Who cares?
We're in debt trillions of dollars to China, which is
we're in trillions of debt to a lot of different countries who have small chunks of U.S. debt, which is basically used as a hedge against other investments, because the U.S. dollar is literally the only thing it is backed by is, quote, the faith and credit in the U.S. government, end quote, which basically means
nothing.
Our money has value so long as the U.S. government continues to exist and people recognize that it's a thing.
Yeah.
So long as the government doesn't collapse into rubble tomorrow, our money still has value. That's basically the only thing that backs our money.
So what is this bullshit about the debts? Anyways, okay. Fine. This happens to me every time. I start to think about it, and then it makes no sense, and then it makes my brain overheat. So just move on. Fucking just raise it. They're not. What if they don't? What's gonna happen? Oh yeah, you said what's gonna happen. But it's all of this is so all of this is made up. All of this is made up. All of this shit is made up.
Your back isn't real. Fuck you.
I don't know what to say. God damn it.
I mean, that's the most sane response, really.
It doesn't matter now, but it will matter soon, probably.
Yeah, I'm like genuinely rubbing my temples trying to understand this. Like,
The other problem is that if we default on our debt because our money is pegged to everything, that instantly triggers like a global crisis financially.
Our money is pegging everything? Wow.
Yeah.
Because all of the exchange rates are pegged to the US dollar, and all like currency swaps,
some kinky currency over here,
are done in US dollars. So also, the investment other countries have made into US treasury debts would obviously go down. That's what happens when you invest in a treasury and then it gets downgraded. It loses value.
This future's so bright, we're gonna be obliterated by it.
Doesn't it also
depressing?
Like, China holds the equivalent of
about 750 billion last I checked.
I think it's more than that.
It's so funny.
Which coincidentally was approximately the equivalent of what the U.S. Defense Department was getting as an annual budget when Biden took office.
China now has over $1 trillion of the national debt. So, like, it's kind of leverage, but it's like...
It's the financial equivalent of mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. It's kind of like we own a piece of you, so like if you try and tank us, you tank a part of yourself.
And honestly, China would be able to stomach that blow much more easily than the United States could.
Yeah. I mean, all currency pretty much is experiencing some kind of inflation, but the United States is experiencing like huge inflation, and it's almost solely because of
the Fed trying to crush the proletariat.
Well, yeah, like it's the lie that nobody believes, basically, that like capitalists can't afford to pay like the cost of energy and labor.
Yeah.
So prices for everything are fucking going up, and
if they can't afford that, then why is half the Defense Department's budget literally being gift wrapped to private contractors like Raytheon? I guess Raytheon needs help paying for its own fucking missiles now.
Yeah, like all of the profit generated since the pandemic, not all of it, but the vast majority of it,
a lot of it,
has gone to a very, very small, I don't know why my brain isn't allowing me to figure out how to say this right now.
A select group of
like the working class
elites.
hasn't seen any of the profits generated.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Yes, it went to
the
people it usually goes to. Yeah, the people it usually goes to. Yeah.
At the beginning of COVID, around April 2020, the Fed took the unprecedented step of stepping into the stock market and literally buying up trillions of dollars of corporate bonds to keep the private sector afloat. And I think it was something like $8 to $10 trillion that the Fed spent on Wall Street during the year 2020 alone.
Do you guys remember when they injected $1 trillion into the stock market and it just disappeared in like half an hour?
That was $1 trillion per month.
There was one particular
instance.
It was like, one of those like brink of disaster moments where it was like, if you don't do something, everything is going to fall apart. So the Treasury was like, all right, we'll just magically, we got $1 trillion.
Yeah.
We can whip that up for you.
Where'd it come from? Oh.
And then
the Fed just printed it out of thin air.
There was like a tiny little blip in the stock market, and then it tanked back to exactly.
Yeah, no, I do remember that happening.
$1.5 trillion for less than an hour's worth of a bump in the stocks. That's it. And then it disappeared. Then it kept crashing. Folks, to put that in perspective, do you know how much student loan debt is held by Americans here in the United States? $1.5 trillion.
We got a wonderful economy, folks.
I know.
Sucks.
It goes, tits up on average like every 4 to 7 years, and needs to be bailed out at taxpayer expense. I'm losing track of how many times at the age of 26 how many times I've already experienced a quote unquote once in a generation or once in a lifetime financial crisis.
Yeah, same thing goes for like climate disasters.
Yeah.
That was kind of the parallel I was trying to draw.
Oh, well, I'm so smart then for picking up on that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Speaking of, actually, I don't know if this really isn't. It's only pertinent because I was talking about it on the server so much, but
Do it.
The tornado that like ripped through Alabama. It was like the Birmingham Center for the National Weather Service. They finally finished surveying the tornado that hit central Alabama like a week ago.
Central Bama.
They rated it an EF3, and it killed 7 people and injured 16. And it was like one of those multi-vortex tornadoes. You could see it was a 76-mile continuous track tornado. It was like a crazy-looking mesocyclone, and they only rated it EF3, which isn't even in the violent tornado category. And this is in January. We haven't really had any like quote-unquote violent tornadoes in recent years. I don't know if climate change can be directly tied to that.
Do you mean the country?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
we don't
world.
Get that shit up in here.
Most tornadoes on Earth happen in the United States. There are some tornadoes in China, and
there's something about that like tornadoes are like American that just feels appropriate. I don't know why. The tenacity, the ferociousness of it, like it just feels purely American. I don't know. It's just like the nature of the storm itself. To me, feels like an American phenomenon, and I don't know why. That's all I'm saying.
we kind of inflict that on other people regularly. Maybe that's why.
I think it's also like it's a spectacle.
Yeah.
It's
there's almost like a gravitas to it that's like I don't know, man. Anyways, I don't know.
We love a good
weather's so
here.
Cool.
It's like a thing that we mythologize rather than, it's just like a weird atmospheric thing. Like that's really what it is. It's just it's like a series of atmospheric
weather is fucking dope.
Small coincidences. Dixie Alley is a dangerous place at the end of the year, and the plains are a dangerous place in the spring. But anyway, yeah, the fact that we are having relatively like weak tornadoes that are killing people in January, when we start getting violent tornadoes again, because there are years where we experience violent tornado outbreaks, and when I say that, I mean EF4 and EF5 back to back. There's one town in, I think it's Oklahoma, that's been hit by EF5s like 4 times in the last couple of decades, which is just fucking unfathomable that people still live there, but hey. The city of Moore, Oklahoma is one of the most tornado-prone metropolitan areas in the world, having been hit by at least 9 separate tornadoes between 1998 and 2015. The most violent among them all occurred in the month of May. The Bridge Creek Moore Twister of 1999 is generally considered the strongest tornado on record, with sustained wind speeds measured at over 300 miles per hour, killing 36 people and injuring nearly 600. Another extremely violent tornado in 2013 killed 24 people and injured over 200. Most incredibly, at least from my perspective, is that there is actually a point in the city at which the tracks of these tornadoes, one rated F5 and the other EF5, intersect. Smaller towns have been literally decimated by less intense tornadoes and forced to disincorporate, but Moore still stands.
Yeah, all these big storms are going to come back just in time for the new Twister. That's right, folks. They're making a sequel to Twister called Twisters. Yeah, no, I was hoping somebody would have laughed because okay. But yeah, that's the weather. It grows more unpredictable every day. But for now, Joe, we need to talk. Okay, fine.
Fuck up my segue.
Well, it doesn't grow more unpredictable. Like that's kind of the tragedy, is that we have very good climate science now.
It grows more intense.
And yet people are still dying because like they live in shitty, dangerous housing because they can't afford to live in like physically stable housing. The South has the dual problem of having poorly built housing. A lot of people live in trailers and they don't have a tornado shelter. They don't really have any other options.
Yeah. Can I do my segue?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Joe, what the fuck are you doing down there?
Eating.
Okay. I say down there because in the list of names on the Zencaster, he's at the bottom. So I don't know.
Oh,
anyways,
on my screen, you're at the bottom.
They didn't even put me second. Wow, I feel slighted. Anyways, fuck you, Zencaster. Anyways, Joe, we need to talk about Kevin. Yes. That was my stupid segue. It's bad.
It was good enough.
No, it wasn't. Fuck you. Don't give me that. Anyways, keep talking. Talk about that chump.
Do it.
Okay.
If I may.
Jeff Goldblum doesn't have anything to say. You can keep talking.
I was just waiting for the sound drop to end.
It did. What? Go.
I don't know why it just amuses me to just call him by his first name and his first name alone. So from this point, I'm just going to be referring to Kevin McCarthy simply as Kevin.
Thank you.
So Kevin broke the record for number of ballots needed to win the speakership in the U.S. House of Representatives. The guy who took more times than him, you have to go all the way back to 1859, which was the last full Congress before the Civil War started. That's how much of a fuck-up Kevin is. Took him 15 tries. And the simple majority required, normally it's 218. He only got 216 because they got enough of the holdouts to vote present so that the simple majority dropped from 218 to 216.
So he just kept trying over and over again?
Yeah, pretty much.
You can do that?
Yeah, 15 times.
Huh. Is that flawed? That we can just allow people to keep doing it for 15 times straight until they get it, or what?
Well, literally nobody else had enough votes to be able to get elected either, so... Because the Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, who also sucks, he never got more than 213.
That's a flawed system, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's not?
No, it works perfectly every time.
Like this time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure, because I didn't,
That is one big pile of shit.
Glad I could give you some solace.
C-SPAN normally, they're kind of restricted in what they're allowed to show because, House rules packages will, dictate, what C-SPAN can and can't show. But because the rules package hadn't been, approved yet, because I hadn't even elected a fucking speaker, C-SPAN could just kind of do whatever the fuck it wanted, and that's why we got, those images of, Kevin McCarthy almost getting into a fist fight with Matt Gaetz.
How do you know C-SPAN enough to know what normally is on C-SPAN?
Because I read an article about it.
Oh, you read an article, thank God. You just saved yourself so hard. I'm serious.
I read an article.
Do you normally watch C-SPAN, Joe?
Only when I'm, needing something in the background so that, I don't, zone out, but, that I'm not paying attention to.
Only when you need something in the background, folks. It's not a habit. It's fine. It's only background noise. Okay.
Because if I'm working in, complete silence, I'll just, drift off.
Why do you put on C-SPAN, though?
Because it's something I don't really care about that much. And it's, a consistent level of noise.
What a weird boy you are. Anyways. I'm whatever. Yeah, fuck him. Fuck Kevin McCarthy. He's gonna go shoot up Congress with a fucking bow and arrow. If you've seen, we need to talk about Kevin. You understand that reference. Anyways, maybe I shouldn't explain my references. Maybe, I don't know. Well, I mean, I just did say that a politician was gonna do violence, so I do have to explain what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyways, I should shut the fuck up and let you guys talk about the failed coup attempt in Brazil that recently happened on January 8th, 2023.
It was an even lamer putsch than we experienced, which is a significant development.
Quite impressive because the bar is very low.
Yeah, it's significantly insignificant. I don't know how else to hype it up.
And also, the people behind it are actually facing consequences.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was fucking cringe, my take on it. Joe, did you have a
Joe, do you have
more
any
in-depth
information?
analysis?
Yeah.
There was a tweet by, I think it's called Populism Updates, where it was Bolsonaro supporters, we are doing the crusade, we are going to fight and die, and it's me Bolsonaro, oh my god, this is what a Slurpee tastes like?
Yeah, it was kind of this weird movement in absentia. Bolsonaro had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, basically a bunch of Bolsonaro. What does that mean?
What?
Is that just for me? The yellow dot? Sorry, you're gonna have to cut this out.
Alright, hold on.
As a species, human beings...
We're not starting right now? In the middle of that sound drop? Jesus
Yes,
Christ,
we are.
man.
We have restarted in the middle of that sound drop. Sorry, my brain is fucking...
Technical difficulties.
I had
Now,
like
Joe's line is behind our lines. Is that going to be fine?
What?
Dude, that rhymed so hard.
Joe's line is behind our line. Is that going to be fine? Da-da-da-da.
It'll be, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's catching up. Sorry. All
Whatever.
right. Look at that.
I'm catching up for lost time.
No, it
No.
literally just did. I can see it visually catching up to our timeline.
I
right
don't
now.
see it catching up.
I'm on the right timeline.
I do. Oh, shut up, Joe. Jesus Christ.
All right, so
So talk about
anyway,
fucking the failed. I'm gonna just weep in the middle of the corner of the room as you guys talk about the fucking failed coup in goddamn Brazil.
You know, I still think that it is really funny that within days of that happening, Bolsonaro has found his way back to his comfort place, which is a hospital bed.
Oh.
You got sick again?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
He has found his true match, the American healthcare system.
What does he have? Just the old man thickness?
he's rotten.
He's just fucking old.
Yeah, I got old.
I think it's his bowel problem
He
again.
went to the beach that makes you old. Yeah. His bowel again?
Yeah, probably.
He's shitting diamonds. I don't know what that means. I don't know why I said that. I don't know, man.
That's stupid.
Anyways.
So,
Yeah, a bunch of Bolsonaro loyalists went down there and threw shit and tried to wreck up that fucking Capitol building.
I don't know why they thought that the military was in their corner.
which they were not.
Yeah.
Some small
Like,
factions are.
That's why this was not a coup attempt, because they had no like support from the state at all.
They had some lawmakers in the Congress, but like only a couple of them, and they're like
Yeah.
far right backbenchers who are like irrelevant.
Backbenchers.
So the governor of the federal
Backbencher.
district of Brazil was apparently part of it, but they've been arrested and held without bail. So
Fuck them.
By the way, what we're talking about, I don't know if we actually spelled it out, but in Brasília, now that Lula,
What is Brasilia? That's the capital of Brazil?
it's where their like presidential palace is.
in like the Supreme Court and like the Congress, but the governor of Brasilia was like removed from that position and placed under
Yeah,
arrest.
capital of Brazil. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. By the way, do you know how Brazil got its name?
No idea.
It's because the colonizers exported Brazil wood and Brazil nuts. So they named the fucking country after the kind of wood that they took from it.
Very creative.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's kind of like how the CIA had like Operation Sugar Plum or whatever for like the fucking Castro assassination attempt.
Huh.
Man, that's on the nose.
I don't know, man.
No, I made that up. I don't know what it was. It's something about sugar.
Oh, yeah, but you know.
It was like Sweet Pea Boy. Sugar was the CIA's well-documented cryptonym for a man named Richard Gibson, who chaired the Fair Play for Cuba committee from 1961 to 1962. Over the next couple of years, he was converted into a CIA asset and given the new cryptonym of QR Phone 1.
You look at this
I
picture of
bet.
this square with the building in the background. Yeah, they fucking fuck these people.
So yeah, there was I mean, it was sort of coordinated in the same way that like the one in America was. There were a lot of
January 6th.
parallels.
In that it wasn't planned that well.
Yeah, and also that there was no direct support from the military or the police. But like for some reason, these guys showed up at the Capitol and thought.
They came to wreck house, and they wanted to overturn that shit. They basically just wanted to stop the process of democracy in the country.
Even though like Lula had already been in power for like a week by that point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Bolsonaro had been sort of setting this up so that it would be impossible for him to lose in the same way that Trump was trying to do. But I think he did like too good a job of fooling his constituents because he didn't support them at all when they actually made the attempt, you know?
I get what you mean.
It was like he knew it was bullshit.
But he already left the country, so like it was all good for him.
Yeah, he just like left in shame and
Do whatever the fuck you want, guys. I'll be sleeping in my minion's bed.
so
I almost forgot about that.
it would be like, imagine if Trump, because he was still technically, you know,
He was still technically the president.
it was like the lame duck presidency, you know, he was still in office. So it was more of a self coup. He was there. He was still in the fucking country, you know? Though the probe into the January 8th fiasco has just started, and no government officials have been detained on charges yet, there's some evidence that the putsch was coordinated at least in part by Brazilian agribusiness, with assistance from a handful of Bolsonaro's lackeys. We can also surmise that Bolsonaro's recent hospital visit was probably an attempt to avoid being detained and extradited, as the Brazilian Supreme Court has announced that he will be a subject of investigation after he challenged the legitimacy of Lula's presidency in a Facebook video, which he subsequently deleted. Most recently, the AP reported that Lula has fired the head of the Brazilian military for his failure to protect the capital, implying malfeasance rather than misfeasance, but we don't have details on that yet. Although I do my best to ensure that the information we give you here is accurate, I was more lax on this story because I am personally amused by the image of Bolsonaro obliviously wandering around Orlando eating KFC. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if this is significant because to me, every time I go to work, if CNN's on in the background, dude, I feel like the only thing they ever cover are January 6th and Russia bad. Those are like the two news stories.
China bad. Can't forget that.
China's pretty good.
Even that is less. I don't see very many China stories. Well, sometimes it's like everybody in China is getting COVID, which is like, yeah, kind of figured that would happen when they opened everything up.
Yeah.
Which is the reason they didn't before. So.
Yeah.
Who could have saw that one coming?
Free TV.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. Which is why I avoid cable news, because like it's the same like beating a horse to death with like the same 2 or 3 stories. We get it. You've been trying to make this point for years. Find something else to complain about.
That's how you stoke that fear, though. You get that fear's up, then they don't want to switch away to the nether channel.
So I guess I don't have much of a sense of like what kind of cultural impact this actually has, because it seems like these people are already like, you know, they've been detained, they're under the gun, so to speak. Lula's not going anywhere. He basically won his presidency when he was still incarcerated.
Yeah.
Popular support was always behind him. He ended up in prison because of a bullshit investigation that the United States basically stamped, as they always do, because they got scared of
poor people having
they were
money.
afraid that they would have to disinvest in their fucking cash cow.
And yet, the Lula government is actually cracking down on these people. They arrested like a couple thousand people, but so far, like 40 defendants have already been charged, and they've been put in prison as a preventative measure, and up to $7.7 million of their assets are being frozen to help cover the damages caused to the Congress.
Wow.
Oh yeah, didn't some of them like take a shit or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the typical, like, you know, look at
The
me,
right-wing thing of
I'm
like
taking a shit.
cosplaying
I'm
as like
taking a
being in
shit off
charge.
the desk.
Imagine seeing the January 6th like Viking cosplay and thinking,
wow, I aspire to do exactly this.
I aspire to take a shit. I aspire to take a shit off of a politician's desk.
I want to take a shit. Where is Nancy? I need to take a shit on her desk.
Well, I mean, like, why does it matter where she is then? Does he want her to, like, watch it?
yeah.
I don't know. There were people screaming, "Where's Nancy?" when they like broke into the
Good
Capitol
morning.
building.
Sunday morning.
I get it.
It's the smell.
Only kind of parody, but I do think it would have been hilarious if they hung Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, I mean, like, no. You don't have to say parody because it would be funny. I mean, you're not saying you want that to happen, but it would have been funny if it had happened.
It would have been, yeah. It would have been
You don't
hilarious.
have to say. You really don't have to say parody in that situation because you're not saying you wished it happened. It just would have been funny if it did have happened. Did it have happened?
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking nothing matters, man.
Well, what is time, anyways? What are
Fucking
tenses?
say it. Anyways,
I mean, I'm a night
What's-
shift
what-
worker, so honestly, at this point, it doesn't really have much meaning to me.
there's a train in LaGrange, northern Kentucky right now. I'm watching it on the live stream. Anyways, what the fuck's going on? What's the situation in Peru?
What's going on in Peru is that the working class is fucking angry and they are getting mowed down in the streets by right-wing guys with guns.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's upsetting. How did this start?
Because the right-wing National Assembly tried to impeach Pedro Castillo several times in like sham charges. And so Castillo tried to dissolve the Congress because they kept on trying to impeach him on like trumped up bullshit. And so then they just arrested him and
Yes.
declared that what he was doing was not trying to dissolve a Congress, it was constantly trying to like impeach and overthrow the democratically elected president of the
Yeah.
country. But
Yeah.
no, he's doing a coup because we can't get rid of him. So we're just gonna like throw him in jail.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
Some like political shithead would look at that and be like, "Oh, he's becoming a dictator." And it's like, no.
Yeah, like almost all of the mainstream outlets, like the Times,
Exactly,
Reuters, whatever,
yeah.
claimed that when it happened, like Castillo was trying to do a coup. And it's like, no, you dipshits, that's not actually what happened.
No, a coup's trying to happen to him. Anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Victim shaming New York Times.
Wait, okay. So that's the background to this. So now, like, what? Like, paramilitary forces are just going through the cities and just, like, fucking killing people? Like, is this Indonesia over again?
The indigenous population was really behind Castillo because he's, like, the first ever indigenous person to be elected president. So the southern part of the country is, like, hugely supportive of Castillo, and they aren't, like, backing down. They're, like, actually the largest trade union in Peru is calling for a general strike on Thursday. So there's a lot of resistance, and there's been a lot of protests demanding that Castillo be released from prison, reinstated as president, and that there be a new constitution drafted. And the coup government is responding with state violence.
So they're just sending out, like, who? The cops or
the army?
Okay, the army.
The state has deemed protesters terrorists.
And that's never good.
On January 9th, killed 18 people.
And I think the death toll so far is up to 46 in total.
Also, it's not just like indigenous people and the peasantry. It's students and other working class people. It's union members are also participating in general strikes and demonstrations in the street.
Or I should correct myself, Tons. The largest trade union is calling for a national strike.
The replacement president, the right-wing installed, not elected Goularte, because there was like pushback almost immediately, declared a state of emergency and instituted a curfew at the end of last year. And the majority of Peruvians are not just behind the president, but are also behind the protesters. And they also hate the Congress. The approval rating of the Peruvian Congress is basically the same as it is in the United States.
So like 11%?
Well, 89% against.
Yeah, so like 11% in favor.
Pretty much exactly, yes. And also...
Is that really the number in America?
Yeah, basically.
Sorry, I don't know why I said Goularte. I said he. It's a woman. Her name is Dina.
That's what I thought. I didn't want to ask.
This is why I call everybody a them. Anyways.
I'm sorry, I didn't do I didn't read into any of this shit beforehand, even though I was the one that posted the news story. I'm gonna rectify that right now with some supplementary reporting. Peruvian authorities have, according to reports, been dropping smoke grenades from helicopters and firing live rounds into crowds of people. At the time of recording, over 50 civilians have been killed, including children and bystanders not involved in the protests. A protest in the city of Ayacucho on December 15th, one day after Dina Goularte issued a state of emergency, resulted in the deaths of 10 people. Edgar Prado, a 51-year-old mechanic, exited his home to aid an individual who was lying injured on the sidewalk. As captured on surveillance footage, Prado was then shot in the chest by a member of the Peruvian military. He died approximately 12 hours later. An autopsy confirmed that his death was the result of a gunshot wound. Another man, 19-year-old Jonathan Alarcon, was shot in the hip, and he also succumbed to his wounds. His family later took his coffin to the plaza where he was killed in an act of protest. State violence against indigenous Peruvians generally flies under the radar. Protests have, until now, largely taken place in southern Peru, where Castillo's strongest supporters reside, and where poor Andeans make up the largest portion of the population. Media coverage of these recent massacres has, consequently, been insufficient. But as of January 19th, protests have reached the Peruvian capital of Lima, where public scrutiny is more difficult to evade, and Castillo supporters have a greater capacity to force the hand of the Goularte dictatorship. While boxed in by a line of police in full riot gear, one protester, 61-year-old David Lozada, asserted, quote, "This isn't ending today, it won't end tomorrow, but only once we achieve our goals," unquote. It must be understood that Castillo poses a threat to the capitalist class of Peru because his political platform centers on nationalization of the country's mining operations. Peru is very rich in natural resources such as copper and liquefied natural gas, which are increasingly being sought after for green energy projects. And I think it's worth mentioning that Lisa Kenna, the U.S. ambassador to Peru, CIA veteran, and former top aide to CIA Director Mike Pompeo, spoke with Peru's defense minister, Bobbio Rosas, one day before Rosas instructed the military to initiate a coup against Castillo. While it's not proof of a coordinated effort to replace Castillo with a corporate-friendly stooge, It's pretty fucking suspicious.
It's so good. I mean, you've been dealing with that shit with MassHealth.
Yeah, dude.
Can I just make a joke or say something? Is when you were talking about like the guy they installed, I couldn't remember his name, but I just kept thinking like, oh, is that Juan Guaido's music I hear?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but like Juan Guaido is no mo.
Yeah.
What, was he assassinated? What do you mean? It says
No,
he's
he was
still
Put
alive.
out of power by the opposition.
He was voted out by his own fucking goons.
And it wasn't even close either. Like, it was like something like 72 to like 19 or whatever. It was like a really lopsided margin.
Popular Will Party.
Not only that, but like this parallel Congress was like this kind of like illegitimate separate institution that only the United States like recognizes as legitimate. Not only do they push out Guaido as like their quote unquote interim leader, but they also voted themselves out of existence.
That's a very smart move.
Up until a few weeks ago, it was literally only the United States recognizing Juan Guaido's leadership
I agree
because
with this vote and support it.
the election was overseen by, I believe, the EU, and Maduro was deemed the victor in a free and fair election.
That's why he's the GOAT.
So even Europe couldn't get behind this shit, which is probably why, like, it's kind of strange because the United States still, for the most part, with the exception of basically of China, still holds on to the hard power with military aggression and actual capital.
But the Pentagon can only account for like 39% of its own assets, so like that's not really the strongest of tools.
Well, yeah, but like when it comes to political control, there was a period of time, like after World War II, that even, you know, throughout all the national liberation struggles, like the United States had a kind of legitimacy that it just doesn't have now. Things have changed pretty
Well, the Bretton Woods
significantly in the
system
last few
ended
years.
in like 71, and
But
that was
even
around
after-
the time things kind of went to shit.
Even after that, like it was easier for the CIA to like cozy up to even left-wing.
Well, it's largely because of
leaders.
the fact that there was still like a multipolar world, and like the whole world hadn't like seen like what the United States would look like, you know, when it pulls off the mask, but like nothing to like hold them accountable, and just like rampage across the world.
Right. Like it can't really pull the same tricks anymore. I say I'm talking about America, which is a pretty big, complex institution, but mostly I'm talking about political intervention and its covert military operations and all that shit. You know, they've made the rounds. They've fucked everything up basically everywhere in the world, and like it's getting harder and harder to reproduce those dynamics and have any kind of legitimacy internationally. So I think that's why like we're having more and more cringe looking shit happen.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's kind of similar to how like the tendency of profit to decline over time. Like you fucked everybody over enough times. It's like, well, everybody's seen the one trick you have. How many times do you think you're gonna get away with that?
So many.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Like, come on, dog.
Unfortunately.
But I'm also the same person in the Discord who is like, the bar is really low as far as being able to fool Americans, because the game show Do You Think You're Smarter Than a Fifth Grader has been on the air for 15 years.
It's not still on the air, is it?
It is.
What are you talking about? It is?
Apparently, it is.
When that thing started, bro, it was like...
I was in the 4th grade when it started.
So were you smarter than a 5th grader at that point? Oh,
I would think so.
No. Oh, okay. Fucking pretentious asshole. What do you mean you would think so?
I feel like I can't contribute anything more to any of these stories. It's fucked up, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
happening in Peru. I guess
It reminds me of what happened in Indonesia and a number of other countries, but specifically what comes to mind is Indonesia. And even like under like where does Duterte? Where does he rule?
Philippines.
Or did?
Philippines.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Fucking shit with that. Oh, this is upsetting.
Yeah.
I don't like it, Joe. Joe, make it good. Make it all good. Make it stop being bad.
I've had my nose probably a little bit too deep in this book. I finally started reading the Jakarta Method. I am now
Hell yeah.
106 pages in.
I guess I'll read that next then.
And yeah, it is interesting though. Like I could talk about that honestly more than these other news stories, because they are so much like, it's not like a relic of the past. It's almost like a joke about the past, because it's happened so many.
First time is tragedy. Second time is farce.
It's like it's happened so many times that there isn't a single person that doesn't know what's happening. Like these dynamics are they're too well easily understood for there to be like any kind of competing narrative among working class people, unless you're talking about the United States, because most people in the United States don't know or give a fuck about any of this. But
again,
unfortunately,
we live in a country where "are you smarter than a fifth grader" is like still a thing.
Well, yeah, but we're also like very divorced from the material consequences of the American empire. We don't see what it's like when people are working, 12 hours a day every day for fucking peanuts to like,
or vaporized by a predator drone because for no apparent reason.
We have been able to, just as a function of rapid industrialization last century, like our labor laws no longer allow like children working from dawn to dusk in a fucking mine, like sorting out metals by using mercury with their bare hands, but that's still what work conditions are like in, a lot of the former French colonies in Africa. And I'm sure there are equally horrendous labor operations happening in the banana republics. But yeah, what's interesting in the Jakarta method that I never had really considered was the notion of the third world as a communist alternative to the American and Soviet methods. So it wasn't like in its historical context, the term third world truly meant like a third way.
But like in the West, it's been turned into like an epithet.
Right. Like it's a fucking contest and the third world is losing the contest. But really it's like, okay, we want to collectivize. This is going to be an anti-colonial struggle, but we don't want to take orders from Moscow. And I mean, that's what China ultimately did. And China still exists because they did that. In the current context, the third world is like the countries that are still colonized by the Western powers, but
so most of West Africa then.
Right, but they basically have puppet governments and severe inequality as a result of that, IMF restructuring and all that bullshit. But yeah, I mean, there was a time when there was like burgeoning communist movements across the entire world, and I mean literally the entire world. Talked about Indonesia. They had, oh, nice fart, Carlene. We had, there was a point in which the Indonesian Communist Party was the second largest communist party in the world.
Outside of the Soviet Union.
Yes.
And they got massacred.
They literally just got fucking mass murdered by the government, which is like, there's like a profundity to that I can't even express with fucking words,
Homicidal.
Yeah, I never did explain that.
Just explain that.
There was a point that I did not know that I had no health insurance.
Oh, God.
But I didn't. And in that period of time, that happened to be when I got the surgery on my sinuses.
Oh, God.
And when I eventually found out, it was because one of the bills for that procedure bounced, and I had to figure that out the hard way by tracing it back to somebody who said, oh, well, it looks like we unenrolled you because in the MassHealth system it said that you are deceased. So I had to alert MassHealth that I am in fact alive, and then re-enroll, and then through that re-enroll in OneCare, which is like a unification of fucking Medicare and Medicaid, and then re-enroll in my Tufts plan, which allows me to not have to pay copays. And I have been receiving this bill from, I think it's the anesthesiologist for like 9 septoplasty charges that I cannot dispute. I do not know what the fuck to do. I have called Tufts, and they said that it was a problem with MassHealth. So I called MassHealth and I explained this, and they said, oh, well, we don't see any mistake on our end. Now it looks like you should be covered retroactively. What you need to do is talk to the billing department so that they can rebill Tufts. So I called the billing department, and the billing department said, oh no, we already billed them, and then they recouped the payment. You need to talk to Tufts. So I fucking called Tufts, and they said, nah, we can't do anything about this. The enrollment is not our responsibility. That's all done through MassHealth. At which point I had been on the phone for 3 hours, and I hung up because I could not fucking deal with this today. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like, this is, I mean, it's nice having public health care and everything, but when trying to dispute a bill due to a mistake that I did not fucking make, somebody, I presume it's somebody trying to cover their ass in MassHealth to try and
it definitely is.
Smooth over the fact that they fucked up severely.
That's why when my doctor's office fucks me over like this, I just show up in person and I just harass them until they just give in and just cop to it.
Like, I would rather just pay the fucking copays than have to deal with this, because this is feels like a fucking full-time job, dude. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. It's stressful.
Yep. That's why I say nowadays at work that all of this type shit is actually my job, and working at Pfizer is just something I do on the weekends.
And when I asked for a reference number, I had gone through so many different departments at MassHealth that eventually, when I asked the guy for a reference number, he was like, oh, we don't even give reference numbers at this level. I'm just say that my name's Tim. I swear to fucking God. So I don't have a reference number to talk to my case manager guy. I just have to be yeah, I guess I talked to
this guy called
I talked to Tim. First name basis. Tim of MassHealth.
Tim of MassHealth.
First of his brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I spent all of my mental energy on that, and I do I have very strong feelings about what's
It's not that bad looking. Shut up. Jesus Christ.
the first time I saw this statue. I can't remember if it was in the Toilets with Threatening Auras Facebook group, or might be That is Poop from a Butt. Those are the two tags that I can see being the tag groups where I was exposed to this content.
Pooping from a butt, it's all right. I'm pooping from a butt.
It's probably
The Embrace
toilet.
is a new statue in Boston Common, correct? And it's based on when Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize in the Embrace that he and his wife
Nobel
shared.
Peace?
Peace Prize, excuse me.
The Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, the Nobel Peace Prize, because he was such.
Yeah.
He was the noble priest. Oh God, I feel
Noble priest.
I feel terrible making these jokes. I should be honest. And a lot of people don't like the way it looks, and it's fine. Kind of looks like a Silent Hill monster.
Martin Luther King has become, it's the refrain of every person that likes to think that they're not racist because they think Martin Luther King is good.
Well, I mean, he is good.
That's fine and dandy and all, but
They're saying it's bad.
that doesn't make you a good person.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Martin Luther King was a good person, and, he got assassinated by the FBI, so, that's what ends up happening to prominent people who aren't terrible in this country.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was also widely hated while he was alive, specifically because he was a socialist
Black.
who is an anti-imperialist, an anti-capitalist, who at the time of his assassination was supporting striking sanitation workers.
Yes.
But
It sounds like he was a cool guy.
the story that we're told about him is, he just wanted black people to, like, be able to sit on the bus. That's essentially all we're told.
Sometimes the way Joe puts things, it's
Well, the fucked up thing is that it's true, and that's what I mean. Is like you can like make anybody sound good or bad if that's the extent of knowledge you have about like their impact on society. You know?
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God, we're all tuckered out. It's only 9:11 p.m. in the evening. My God, I guess we're gonna.
George Bush did it.
George Bush caused that 9/11. He didn't even think twice. He's like, I'm gonna go beyond the liminal space and cause 9/11. My name is Scott, and you can follow me on any social media that you want, except for Twitter at Sweaty Wife. I don't care anymore. I am on Mastodon, but I barely post, and I don't really, just follow me on like Instagram or Letterboxd at Sweaty Wife. Joseph.
I'm Joe. It's not really worth trying to find me because I just don't have the effort these days.
He's a bored boy.
Really just tired, run down,
tired boy.
Dealing with healthcare bullshit. I mean, not on the level that Jesse's dealing with, but it's like it is a certain degree of bullshit.
And he's Jesse.
And I'm Jesse.
And he's
not
Find my music on soundcloud.com/contingentsboston, CONTINGENCE Boston. The bright point in my life is that I have gotten involved in mutual aid again. So, the whole working group has. If you're in the Boston area, you don't even have to be in the Boston area. You can be in any area. And if they don't have mutual aid where you live, you gotta make it.
Mutual up that aid. I don't know.
Teach people theory and stuff. Radicalize people. I do have a slam recommendation this week. In your slam.
Slam
recommendation is.
What's the boys be boys?
There's a plane going on.
There's a plane
outside.
going on.
Oh my God. There's a plane happening. Your slam recommendation is. The album entitled Rationing the Sacred Human Remains. And the band's is Parasitic Ejaculation.
Oh. Is that it? Just parasitic ejaculation? Not.
Yes.
Oh, it's pretty good, actually. Like that name.
Plane is happening.
Stop saying that.
It's funny.
We got it. No, I know.
I'm still trying to process it.
They're from Santa Cruz. They're on the label is called Huffing Asbestos Records.
It's a positive name. I like it.
Yeah.
Uplifted right before the cancer comes in.
Children, I recommend you do that. Yeah. Listen to that slam. Slam, dun, dun. Yeah, we're all fucking tired. Anyways, we say the various things we say, Batangto. That's the Epoch. I'm actually really... Yay! You've had a... Oh, shit. Opened up the wrong fucking program just now.
So, yeah,
bleep
Jesus.
it. I'll just
God,
bleep
the entire thing. It just turns into like one long beep. God damn it.
No, it won't be one long beep. It'll be a
All right,
short
I actually
beep.
I do need to eat, and I have a fucking episode of the show I want to finish.
All right, Scott. Fine.
And like, I don't know, Joe. Maybe I have to like
Give-
fucking gotta connect with a former coworker.
I almost just asked if you had a swordfish sound effect, which I don't think they make. I think swordfish make an animal noise.
Well, I'm asking now because, like, so that you have time to figure shit out. Because, like, I don't,
How do
I'm
I
not
get to fucking
available on.
How do you
I'm
get
not
to?
available on Saturdays that often.
All right,
We'll figure it out.
this motherfucker's putting me on.
I know how to get there. You can get there in the T, dude.
You
Yeah.
can how?
Yeah.
There's
Take
literally a computer rail stop.
What was that?
There's an alligator. That doesn't sound like a fish. No, I don't have fish.
Fish don't make sense. That's why.
Oh,
dude.
I have a whale. That's it. That's all I
Okay.
have.
All right.
But yeah, there's a commuter rail stop on. I can pick you up at the station.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.